Grade 10s, yes, it is your Wednesday edition of Learn Extra Life, and you're hanging out with Looney and Cheryl. How are you this year, Cheryl?
I'm still trying to recover from the shock of starting a brand new school year. Yes.
So what are we doing for the Mindsetters today?
Welcome, Mindsetters. Today we're going to be looking at the chemistry of life, or some of you like to call it biochemistry. A little bit of a scary subject for some of you, but we're going to make it nice and easy today.
All right, grade 10s, I hope you're ready to learn more and learn extra with us. As you heard, chemistry of life. So I hope you guys are going to enjoy the show. Just a few things you need to know. You need to hit us up on Facebook and on Twitter at Learn Extra, and you can download all the show notes, the videos, and the schedules on learn.mindset.co.za. I hope you guys enjoy the show. I did upload the notes on the Facebook page already, so go through them while Cheryl's giving you an awesome lesson, and let's take it away, Cheryl.
Thank you, Lenny. Welcome, grade 10s, for the first time. I'd also like to say congratulations on making the most awesome subject choice. All right, life science is the best subject. The science and the maths will tell you otherwise, but welcome for making a good choice. All right, please just remember, grade 10, very different to grade 8 and 9, a lot more studying, and please don't throw away your books at the end of the year. All right, when you finish with grade 10, you're not just finished, you've just started. Because very often I ask my kids at school, can you remember what we did in grade 10? And usually I get the expression, all right? They can't even remember what they did yesterday. So guys, please, grade 10, essential. It's your building blocks, your foundation. You're going to see we start off today right at the bottom. And we're going to work yourself up. And each year, right, you're going to need to remember concepts that you have done in the previous year until obviously you get to grade 12. In grade 12, you're still going to be hearing your teacher say, do you remember when you did this in grade 10? So very, very important for in your grade 10, you're laying down the building blocks. Okay, we're starting off today with, as Looney introduced with us, the chemistry of life, or some like to refer to it as biochemistry, right? Basically, it's, when we say chemistry, if you're anything like me, I get the jitters when I hear all those science words, right? But what it is we're going to look at now, right? We're going to be looking at inorganic and organic compounds. Listen to the words, very important. Vocabulary is essential, all right? So we're going to look at inorganic and organic compounds. We're going to see what's the difference between the two, all right? And very important, you need to know those very well. They're going to keep on popping up. Next year when you're in grade 11, you're going to be doing digestion, you're going to be doing cellular respiration, you're going to be doing photosynthesis. And all of the things that you learned right here in the beginning, right, are going to be very, very important for as basic concepts for certain work that you're going to need to do later on. Okay, so we're going to learn about inorganic and organic. Now some of you, okay, what's that? Now, before we start, at the beginning, they've got a bit of a change in the program, okay? At the beginning of each section, we're going to give you a challenge question. And what the challenge question is not, can I pick the hardest question that I can find, give it to you. What I'm going to do is give you a question, right, which I think is very important for you to be able to know and to understand. Next week, you're going to see we're going to be doing food tests and practical work, all right? And this section over here is going to link up with the rest. I'm sure you've all started. You've been at school for a couple of weeks now, so you are familiar with some of the terms that we're going to use. So my challenge question to you is the following, okay? Using the graph in the figure below, give an account, all right, of the effects of temperature on enzyme activity. At the end of this show, we're going to go through the answer, and I want at least 3 or 4 lines for you, all right, to be able to do it. It says give an account. In other words, I want you to tell me right from the beginning to the end what the graph tells you. Okay, good luck. I think enzymes are important parts of this. That's why I've given you the question. Okay, so let us start. Remember all of these things, the notes, etc. I am not going to go into a huge amount of depth. That is for your teacher to do, right? What we're going to look at, why are we studying, what we're doing, certain skills that you need to do. Okay, why do we start off with biochemistry or chemistry of life? your very first section, all right, leads into the second. For those of you who haven't done it before, that is the cell, right? This is the cell. And the cell, very simply, is the basic unit. Let me get here, nice color, choose the color for the day, all right? Is the basic unit of, and here, life. All right, the basic units of life. All living organisms are either going to be a simple single cell or going to be many, many, many cells, a multicellular organism. All right? And what we find when we talk about these inorganic and organic compounds, they are found in this basic units of life. So before we go and look at the cell and all the structures of the cell and the functions of the cell, we need to look at the basic chemistry, all right, that is going to make up these cells. And when we carry on later, you're going to look at the different types of cells. When you do mammalian tissue, when you do plant tissue, you're going to take this cell and you're going to see how it changes or specializes specifically according to what its function is. Structure versus function, something you'll always hear me say. So when we look at a cell, all right, we have got inorganic and organic compounds. Now, what some people use as a definition when they talk about inorganic, they say non-living, all right? We can use that term, an organic living, not really correct. What we do say, though, is especially when it comes to the organic compounds. All organic compounds, very important. All of them, okay, have carbon. All of them have carbon. All organic compounds have carbon in it, whereas inorganic compounds do not. When we talk about our inorganic, we're going to talk about water, all right? Water, H2O. Calcium, phosphorus, magnesium, all right? I don't hear none of those, all right, have carbon as their base. So when we talk about an inorganic, not so much non-living, but simple structures don't have carbon as a base, whereas our organic, usually much larger structures that have a base as carbon. Okay, what do you need to know? Guys, when you're studying, the most important thing, please, all right, you need to have pictures. You need to have tables. If you go onto the website, those of you who are on Facebook, etc., and you go to the notes, what you will see, simplified things. All right, everything fits in that we've done when we do organic and inorganic. It fits into a table. Okay, so when it comes to inorganic, the first thing you need to know is water. And what is the importance of water? That is essential. All right, water, as we know, okay, most of the cell is made up of water. But most importantly, one of the things that we need to know about water, all right, all chemical reactions occur in water. All right? So how the cell works, and if the organism is made up of lots and lots of cells, all right? Each cell, in order for it to work, all right? And it works by chemical reactions. Organic compound that we're going to look at is enzymes, okay? So when you have here, when you draw it, I suggest that when you study, do a mind map, all right? Take a mind map and you say, inorganic nutrients, all right? And you write there, water. And you list, all right? You list the functions. You say, chemical reactions occur. You write there, it's a transport medium. All right, you write there, all right, it stops desiccation. All right, it's a cleansing, takes away wastes. It transports digested food. Right, think about blood is made up of water. What is blood? Transport things. When you urinate, what is it? It's water. You're getting rid of wastes. Okay? When you breathe in, the air, what happens? It dissolves in the watery lining, all right, of your respiratory organs. When you breathe it out, all right, it's in the form of water vapor, again getting rid of everything. So water is essential, right, for your body to be able to function. As I said, H2O. O. Right, no carbon. The next one, right, and this boils down, I'm afraid when it comes to the nutrients, it boils down very simply to studying. All right, you need to be able, again, use a mind map. I give my grade 10s, and they always laugh at me. I give them like a strongman picture. It looks a bit stupid, and they always laugh, all right? But I give them a human body. You also need to know the plants, and I make them label it, all right? What is it? I've got a man with like big teeth, and I've put it on the face over here. So if you put it on the face, he has a nice big smiley face, and I've put teeth. Why? Because one of the things I need is calcium. All right, and why do I need calcium? I need it for big, strong bones and teeth. All right, because what am I going to do in grade 10? I'm going to look at the skeleton. All right, and before I look at the skeleton, what am I going to look at? A bone cell. All right, a bone cell. So for each of them, I'm afraid you're going to have to make a table, and for each things, you're going to need to list. Okay, calcium, where do I find it? Oh, I found it in milk. All right, I found it. And what happens if I don't have enough calcium? Right, I'm going to get rickets, all right, or osteomalacia. So what happens if I don't have sodium, salt? Where do I find it? Oh, I need to find it. What kind of foods do I have? All right, I can find it just in the table salt. Right, what happens if I don't? Oh, I might get cramps, etc. Iron, what happens? We find it in meat. What happens if I don't have enough anemia? So for each of those, they are important, right, because they form part of the cell, which all helps with our body, and if we don't have enough, you need to then understand. And also understand the concept macro and micronutrients. All right, macro are needed in lots of qualities, micro are only needed in small. Guys, the next session is very, very, very important. Please go to the website, and if you're not, just take your own, draw your own block. For each of these here, the carbohydrates, the proteins and fats. Remember, carbohydrates, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. All right, lipids, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. We know over here there's a ratio of 1 to 2 to 1. Proteins, carbon, hydrogen, oxygen, nitrogen, very important, different. Okay, no, all enzymes are proteins. Not all proteins are enzymes. All enzymes are proteins. So for each of these, right, what do I need to know? 1, I need to know the elements. 2, I need to know what their monomers are. Listen, monomer. Monomer means building block, okay? A single thing. So for carbohydrates, monosaccharides. For proteins, amino acids. For lipids, 3 fatty acids and 1 glycerol. Why do I need to know that? Quite simply, when I do the digestive system and I eat a piece of bread, I want to know what does it need to break down into so that my body can use it. Okay? And also very important, enzymes are proteins. And most important there, proteins are very specific when it comes to their pH, comes to their temperature. All right? You guys know that. So why is your body temperature at 36, 37 degrees? Very simple. Go back to that challenge question. Your enzymes work in an optimum temperature. All right? If it's too cold, they are inactive. They don't work. If it's too hot, they change shape because they don't work. So very important, guys, the enzymes. Again, the vitamins you have to make a list. Vitamins, right, help the body. Where my inorganic nutrients built, the vitamins maintain. All right, so I need calcium to build my bones and the teeth, but I need vitamin D to make sure that I maintain that. Okay, one last diagram, all right, that I want you to look at. Very important, please, when it comes to the enzymes, that you understand the diagram. Right, you're going to see, we're going to answer a few questions. This enzyme substrate complex, all right, shows you how an enzyme works, and it also shows you certain characteristics of those enzymes. Okay, so when we go through, as I said, please, I'm going to go back again. This is essential that you know the building blocks, the monomers, that you know the characteristics. This is sweet. Lipids don't dissolve in water. They do dissolve in alcohol. Proteins are sensitive to temperature, to pH. And because enzymes are proteins, they are going to be, all right, reliant on the same thing. Also, why do we need carbohydrates? Why do I need carbohydrates? Energy. Why do I need fat? To store energy. Why do I need proteins? To build. Right? That's my building one. Okay, so please, very important, go to the table and have a look. And next week you're going to see we're going to add another one to it, which is food tests. Because each of these we're going to do for food tests. Okay, are we ready for a break?
Yes.
Because I'm now exhausted.
Okay. Mindsetters, we are going to take a break. Just a quick reminder, we do have the challenge question on our Facebook page, so check that out. Make sure you're able to answer it, and when you have time, right at the end of the show, Cheryl will help you with what you don't understand. So make sure you are tuned in, and we'll see you straight after this break. Welcome back, Mindsetters, from that break. Quick shout out to Lungstar, Virgin Bofo, and Walter for trying out the challenge question. We will get to that later on in the show. Just a quick question from Tepiso. Why do we regard iron as a micronutrient? Because we need it very much for our blood, and specifically the red blood cells.
Okay, Tepiso, thank you so much for your question. I want to explain to you, when we talk about a micro, all right, it means we need it in small amounts. It doesn't at any time mean that it is not important. All of these nutrients, all right, all of them are very, very important. All of them have the same importance, all right? When we talk about a macronutrient, we talk about things that our body needs, all right? We need more of it to be able to do the same thing. Iron is very tricky. You've got to be very careful when it comes to iron, because if you have too much iron in your body, you actually poison your body, and you can do serious damage. There's actually a disease, and for the life of me, I can't think of it right now. Right, the opposite to anemia, where you lack iron, where their body produces too much iron, and it actually is almost an autoimmune disease, and they actually can die from it. Okay, so iron, you'll see very, very particular when you take iron tablets, right? Doctors tend to prescribe it. You can get it, all right, over the counter and those things, but it's quite what they sometimes call soft iron. So iron in large quantities is dangerous to the body. So it doesn't mean that it is not important. It just means that the body doesn't need as much of it, right? But it's still essential. We know iron helps what? For our muscles. It helps for our, especially our red blood cells, to make that hemoglobin, right? So it can pick up oxygen. So that's very important, right? We just don't need as much, because your body doesn't get rid of it, all right? Because you guys know when the red blood cell goes down, it takes that iron, all right, and it keeps it, right? It doesn't get rid of the iron. Is that all we've got, Luni?
Yes.
Okay. All right, I hope that answers your question. We're now going to go on, I'm just going to go over a few test questions that you can be asked on this section, all right? Very often this section is what we call data response, or practical work in a way. When we give you practical work, I'm going to do a specific enzyme when we do food tests next week when we do practicals, but I'm just going to go over a few questions how you can be asked, all right, sections from the biochemistry. Let me just get there quickly. Okay. All right, if you have a look at the first question, all right, what did I say to you the last time? This diagram, the enzyme substrate complex. All right, if we have a look over here, let me extend the page. This is very important. What do we know about enzymes? Enzymes are biological catalysts. Okay, so what do we mean by a biological catalyst? We mean that it speeds up reactions in our body. Here's the enzyme, all right, and here is what we call the substrate. Let me go down a little bit for you. What do we mean by substrate? We mean by what it acts on, all right? It could be, let's say, for example, let's use a hamburger, right? If you bite into the hamburger, the substrate would be the bread, the butter, the patty, all right, or the tomato, the lettuce, whatever that you have got on your hamburger, all right? Now, very important, that enzymes have a particular shape, and this is the lock and key theory, all right? The substrate has got one shape, the enzyme has got a different shape, but they are perfect together, like a lock and key, all right? They go together. The enzyme changes the substrate. Now it can do two things. It can break something down, or it can build something up. Now the words that we use there, if I break something down, that is called catabolism, all right? If I build something up, I make something bigger, that is called anabolism. Okay, and at the end, my enzyme, all right, detaches and goes back to work again. All right, now bearing that in mind, let's go to the question. Okay, first thing, when I look at it, all right, I'm thinking, all right, it's my enzymes, right, it's my lock and key, how are we going to answer it? Nice and easy, the first thing we asked, provide labels for parts A, B, C, and F. All right, now if you have a look over here, I said to you, first thing, enzymes do not change their shape. So number A, all right, if we look here, the one thing that stays constant all the time is the enzyme. So number A is my enzyme. Okay? Number B is the shape where the substrate and the enzyme are going to fit in. All right? And I always call that my active site. Sorry, my active site. All right, and what do I mean by active? I mean that's where the work's going to be done. All right? That's where the enzyme's going to do its work. And what does an enzyme work on? It always works on substrates. Okay? So I have A is my enzyme, B is my active site, C is my substrate. All right? So here at number D, they lock together, my enzyme substrates complex, but I don't need to answer it because it's not in my questions. Number E, I don't need to answer it, it's not. At the end, what my enzyme is made, number F, all right, is called the product. Okay, and as you can see over here, I had two things, all right, two smaller things. I made it much bigger, so I built something up, and when I build something, just as, so anabolic, there we go, anabolic process. Right, just trying to get the vocabulary going, get the words going so that you can understand what is needed. Okay, so here, there, I've labeled it, all right? Now the next question. The next question, I actually find you can have a few answers for this one. It says, what characteristic of enzymes, all right, is visible in the diagram? Let's have a look at the diagram again. And I think I mentioned a few. All right. I would think one of the characteristics that I would have written is, number one, enzymes, all right, are not destroyed. Because here, we could say not destroyed or can be reused. The reason why I say not destroyed, remember, an enzyme goes, does it work, go back, does its work, go back. So the enzyme itself doesn't change. There is a bit of an unless when we have different conditions. All right, what else can we say here? That an enzyme, all right, what does it do? It changes, all right, it can build a substrate, so we can have catabolism, or in this case, anabolism. All right, because what has it done? Okay, it has taken the substrate and it's built it up. But I would go for the first one. What are we showing here? That enzymes themselves, they change. They cause the reaction and they themselves are not changed. Okay, going on to question number 2. This is a typical question that you're going to get for your nutrients. Very often you will find your teacher will give you a food label, all right, with the different inorganic and vitamins. It could be organic as well. And they're going to ask you questions. What should you have to make this diet better? If you're suffering from this disease, what food choice you need? So this is how very often, right, you're going to be asked the vitamins and the inorganic nutrients. Okay? A food label, all right, with all the different things. Here's exactly what we have over here. We have the following table shows analysis of the nutrients. There we go. Right, found in a 100-gram portion of breakfast. Okay? The breakfast was made up of eggs, bread, and butter. Okay, eggs, bread, and butter. Automatically, all right, you should be saying eggs is rich in proteins, right? And from your nutrients, you should have known nitrogen. Bread is definitely a carbohydrate, right? Bread is a starch. It's a polysaccharide. Remember, lots of monosaccharides, glucose, all right, put together. What do we get? A polysaccharide. And what is my butter? My butter is a lipid or a fat. Okay, so what have I got there? All my organic compounds. Okay, if you have a look, there are all the nutrients, and that when you look at them, you should start to trigger. Okay, carbohydrates we know, and fats, we're looking at energy, all right, and reserve energy, fats as well, insulation. Protein we know is a builder. Calcium, what do we need calcium for? All right, healthy bones and teeth. What do I need iron for? Iron is important, all right, for my hemoglobin, right, for my blood cells. And vitamin A, all right, when we looked at vitamin A, what did we say? It helps with the eyes and with the skin. Okay, vitamin C helps with the blood vessels. All right, so already we're starting to see, okay, what kind of questions can we ask over here? Now, the first question, please, you must read very carefully. Now, all of your answers must come from the table. Okay, so we have a look here, and it says to us, name a vitamin deficiency disease. So all of those are out. And yay, all right, process of elimination, you've got two. Your answer can be vitamin A or vitamin C. But let's carry on reading the rest of the sentence. It says there, from a diet that results mainly in bread. All right, now you're thinking, okay, now let's have a look. Now if we look at the vitamins, all right, what do we notice? Bread, all right, so just bread. What does bread not have? Bread has got absolutely no vitamin C whatsoever. So if I have bread, I have got very little vitamin C, which means I'm not getting any fresh fruit and vitamins in, right? So what vitamin deficiency disease do I get from a lack of vitamin C? Right? Scurvy. All right, because remember, scurvy, sorry, spelled that wrong. Oh, let me go back here. Okay. My spelling is atrocious at times. I apologize. Are you laughing, Luni? Hey?
It's just your first show, don't worry.
No, you know, it's the older you get, the brain just starts to disappear. All right, so scurvy. I'm sure you've all seen a sailor's sickness, all right? Their teeth are rotting and all the blood vessels and all the scabs and whatnot. Right, vitamin C is necessary to keep your blood vessels nice and healthy, to help with all the keeping of your gums and all your epithelial layers all nice. Okay, question number 2. Identify the food type that would be best for a person who suffers from night blindness. Give a reason for your answer. Okay, so let's go back to our vitamins. Okay, night blindness. Night blindness, right, what vitamin was necessary? It's vitamin A. Okay, quite correct, those of you who got it right. Okay, and give a reason for your answer. what does vitamin A do? Those of you. Vitamin A, all right, helps to produce rhodopsin. Okay, now some of you are going, what on earth is rhodopsin? Your body is a wonderful thing, all right. When you study the eye, and you're going to do that in grade 12, all right, those of you IB, grade 11, okay. The eye, you can see what you have. You've got rods and cones in your eye. The cones, I'm sure you might have touched on that earlier. The cones, always remember, cone C for color, and your rods for the black and the white. Now, obviously, when the sun sets, what happens? The colors go away, and nighttime is darker. And what your body does is the vitamin A that you have eaten, all right, is converted into what we call rhodopsin in your eyes, all right, in the cells. And what that rhodopsin does, it enables you to see better at night, right? Some people have got perfect vision during the day. Night blindness is where you battle to see at night because your body doesn't have that vitamin A, all right, to be able to make those distinctions when it comes to night. Hence you have the term night blindness. Okay, so there's just a little fact that you need to know, so that as soon as the sun goes down, all right, your body starts to make the rhodopsin. So now when your mom says to you that if you eat your carrots, it is good for your eyesight, she is quite correct, all right, because carrots are rich in vitamin A and very good for those of you who want to see, because you're going to, as soon as you're 16, 17, all you want to do is drive, and if you can't drive at night, sorry for you. Okay, going on to the vitamin C. This breakfast provides very little vitamin C. What food would you recommend to, all right, to correct this? What would you recommend? Right, if you have a look at the top here, okay, what would you recommend for quite a bit of vitamin C? All right, if we have a look over here, what has vitamin C in it? Pretty much nothing that's part of your breakfast. That's what they said. So make a suggestion, okay? Then we now go with always the safe answers. When it comes to our vitamin C, those are vitamin C. Its name is ascorbic acid. All right, so when you think of ascorbic acid, you're going to think of all the acidy kind of fruits. All right, stick with the safe ones. Oranges, okay, pineapple, lemons. All right, that's not with your tequila. Okay, lemons, oh, strawberries, kiwi fruits, all right, very important. And guys, why would it be very important for my breakfast to also have vitamin C? Remember, vitamin C helps iron being absorbed. So if you want to also keep your iron levels good, vitamin C helps with the absorption of that iron. So it's like, that's why spinach is so good. Might be so gross, all right, because it's green. If it's green, it's gross, all right? But spinach is full of vitamin C, believe it or not, and full of iron, and that actually helps itself. So that's why it's so nice if you have that bacon for breakfast, have a little nice glass of freshly squeezed orange juice, because all the protein's in the bacon, not too much fat, all right? And with that orange juice, superb. Okay. This is just a nice little silly one, but it's important, all right? Remember what I said, you need to know the importances of each of them. Why is it important that you eat, all right, carbohydrates? It's your petrol for your car, all right? And with the price of petrol going up, you might need to use it to walk a lot more lately. Okay, let's have a look. I've given you the different kinds of carbohydrates. Guys, when it comes to carbohydrates, there's so many words, all right? Monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, galactose, all right? Then you combine them together, you get a disaccharide, lactose, maltose, all right, and sucrose. Then you add a whole lot of glucose together, you get a polysaccharide, all right? And that is your starch. Your glycogen is how we store energy, cellulose, chitin. A lot of terms, all right, a lot of words that might be very new to you, and some of them always sound very similar. So be careful to pronounce them carefully, all right, and maybe have just notes where you've jotted down all the different terms. Okay, if we start over here, I've lost my earpiece somewhere. So if James is talking from above, you're going to need to
Talking
shout
from
to me,
above.
because he's not going to hear me in the ear. All right, storage of carbohydrates found in liver and muscle tissue. All right, that's how we store energy. How do we store it? We store it as glycogen. What number is glycogen? It's number A. All right, how else do you think we can store, all right, carbohydrates found in liver and muscle tissue? Okay, just glycogen. You don't want glucose. Very little glucose circulates in the blood, just enough to keep the levels right. Okay, because remember, too high, that's where all the diabetes and all of that comes in. Oh, cane sugar found in sugar beet. All right, those of you especially from Natal, all the sugar cane. All right, which one is sugar cane? That's fruit sugar. All right, and what do you think it would be? All right, if it's fruit sugar, have a look here. Sugar, from where do we get that? What do we make it into? We make it into, all right, table sugar. That's on our table. That sugar cane, all right, when it's processed, it's on the knife that we have in our tea and over our cereal, all right, and that is number B. That will be sucrose. Sucrose is cane sugar. All right, the next one, a monosaccharide. The three monosaccharides, glucose, fructose, galactose, right? All three of them, we can't break the monomers, building blocks to carbohydrates. So let's see. We are looking for glucose, number C. We are looking, there we go, galactose found in milk, and fructose. So your numbers are C, E, and F. Sometimes have a look at the mark allocation when you're answering these kind of questions, all right, because what's going to happen, all right, it will give you an indication. Is James talking in our ear yet or not?
No, you
So
can finish.
Can we
So he
finish? Can I
says.
finish this? Thanks, James. All right, a disaccharide. Remember, we add two together. Two monosaccharides give me a disaccharide. Ooh, where do I have? Sucrose, yes. Maltose, bread. Oh, and the good one that some people are allergic to, lactose, that we're going to find in milk. So BGH. All right, BGH. Oh, I missed one. Sorry, I missed one. See, James making me nervous there. BGH. The main carbohydrate in milk, galactose. All right, but we can actually, galactose was number E. Right, but we can also, believe it or not, we can also say lactose, number H. Right, but when we talk about, when it comes to goats, they don't have the lactose. That's why when people are lactose intolerant, they have goat's milk. Okay, structural carbohydrate found in plant cells. You're going to do the plant cells, so you need to remember it is cellulose. All right, cellulose, that's your dietary fiber that you don't, right, digest. It scrapes through your intestine. Combines with glucose to form lactose. How do we get to lactose? Galactose. So it's number E, right? And the last question, insoluble in water. What are the properties of polysaccharides? All right, insoluble in water. Glycogen, starch, and cellulose. A, D, and I. All right, there we go. Shall we now break?
Yes. Mindset is let's take a break. Quick shout out to Banyana Bunye Apiwe, who's in grade 11, but he's watching the grade 10 show. For Sumzi and Tapiso, thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. Let's take a quick break, and we'll see you straight after this.
No idea.
Welcome back, Mindsetters from the break. Quick more shout outs because now you Mindsetters are asking, but Luni, why aren't you saying hi to me? So, Charlotte, hello. Ripsi Ndomgaise, hadi. And Mtokozisi and Mishek and Mutsunga. Thank you so much, guys, for watching the show and you're enjoying it. So, we have a few questions, Cheryl. We'll start with the one from Banyana. She's asking, so is having too much vitamin A bad? So I'm guessing she wants to know why.
Guys, when it comes to vitamins, right, remember you've got those that are fat soluble and those that are water soluble. What that means is vitamins A, D, E, and K, all right, your body actually stores in the fat of your cells. So you don't, won't say you don't have to have as much of it, but you don't need to have, your body will store it a lot more. All right. So having too much of it is not going to necessarily be deadly, but it can be quite harmful to you. All right. So you don't be very careful when you overdose on things. Okay. It can also have an impact on your kidneys, which have to control all the vitamins, etc. So with those that are fat storage, we also be careful. And remember, the other ones, B and C, are what we call water soluble. Right, and those you need to replace more often because the body uses them, and if it has too much or if it doesn't, it flushes it out in the urine. Right, there's the vitamin Bs that help with your energy, and then the vitamin C. Was there another one?
Just the one about from Bunya asking, how does the catalyst speed up the reaction when it's not part of the reaction? It's
the catalyst, that's its job. All right, and it is part of the reaction. It actually provides all the energy and everything that is necessary for that reaction to take place. That is what an enzyme does, right? An enzyme, as I said, when we talk about a biological catalyst, it has to perform a function, right? That's its job. What it forms, it is part of the reaction. What it doesn't do is, at the end of that reaction, the only thing that's changed is what it's worked on, all right? And not the enzyme itself, all right? Because otherwise, imagine if your body had to keep on replacing you every single time, all right? Let's take, for example, in your mouth, there's saliva in your mouth, you have amylase, right? So, and it breaks down the bread when you eat it. So we start there. Imagine every single time you chewed something, right, all your enzymes would be destroyed. Then what would your body have to do? Keep on making, keep on making. We don't want to keep on making. You know what we want to do? We only want to make when it's old or it's dead, all right? It uses up too much of our body's energy.
Oh, and then one more from Mishak. What is galactose and maltose found in?
Okay, galactose is your milk sugar, all right? Galactose is the monosaccharide that we find in milk sugar. So it's going to be in all your milk products. So we're talking about dairy products. So you're going to find galactose in cheese. You're going to find it in yogurt, all of those things. It's your milk, and it's your milk. It's your milk sugar. Maltose is bread. All right. Your maltose is your bread. It's actually when you have is your bread that you have, because you have a whole lot of it. It makes maltose, and then you have starch. It's also, you find it's in your wheat products, your hops and your barleys and your wheat and those kind of things. All right, it's like those plant type ones. That is where you're going to find maltose. So you're going to break it down basically when all the wheats you use to make bread. Okay,
thanks.
Is that it?
Yes.
Are we going to give the answer to the challenge question?
You can go through it, yes.
Did we have any right ones?
We have. I don't know if they're right because I never did life sciences, but we have a lot of responses, so go through it and then I'll read you.
All right. Guys, when we look at the enzymes, when you look at the graph, there are 3 words that you have to use, all right, for each of the curves of the graph. Okay, let me go over it with you. Okay, the 3 words that I needed you to use, okay, are inactive. That's one. Optimum and denatured. Okay? So, in your answer, you should have had each of those words, and you needed to relate each of them to a temperature. All right? Take your ruler. Okay. Now it says account for the effects of temperature. And you start at low temperatures. Here's the word. All right? From at low temperatures, you can say from 0, you can even hazard a guess, all right? Even up to, there we go, round about 20, 25, all right, degrees. The enzyme is inactive. All right, so I wanted low temperatures and I wanted inactive. Inactive means it doesn't work. Okay, guys, they use these principles when they do washing powder. Okay? Those of you, when you hear not so much now, but in the olden days, but have a look on your washing powder. Right? Omo, when it came out, it said cold water Omo. And what it was saying to you is that washing powders are enzymes. They're catalysts that break down dirt. Okay? And what they're saying to you is you needed to use them in cold water for them to work. All right? So this graph might have been very different, but they're asking for this graph. So we can use those principles, we do, all right? When it says washing powders, it says to you, you must use it in lukewarm water, or you must wash it in very hot water. It's telling you which temperature, all right, those enzymes are going to work at. All right, then next one. So I've got 2 marks so far. When the temperature, all right, reaches 40 degrees, okay, the rate of the reaction is the greatest, because look at my reaction rate. There's my peak. That's where it's working the best. Is the greatest, right? Therefore, that is my optimum temperature. Okay? That is the temperature where it works the best. Don't assume that body temperature is the one, right? Read from the graph that you have given. So there we go. So when it reaches 40 degrees, the rate of reaction is the best. We call that the optimum. Look how much we're getting out of this question. Then the last one. After, because it says a count, you must tell me. All right. After 40 degrees, the reaction rate, okay, what happens to it? It decreases. Yes. Why? Because the enzymes denature. Use that word. All right. Denature means change shape. Okay. Now remember what I said to you. Enzyme, all right, and substrate, they must fit in together. All right. So when it gets too hot, think about when you take your egg, all right, it's all white and see-through and yucky and yellow and runny. What happens when you fry it? It goes hard, all right? It changes shape. It changes totally, all right, because that is what happened. So now, if my enzyme changes shape, say it becomes this, all right, and this needs to, all of a sudden, it can't fit in. So if it can't, what happens if I've got my wrong key now? Right, my lock and key, the whole principle is gone. All right, I now have, all right, the right lock, but the key that I needed doesn't work anymore. All right, or vice versa. That's what happens here. When the enzyme changes its shape, it cannot do its job, and we call that denature. Okay, so if those of you who had, how did we do? Were there some who?
Yes.
Were there some?
Quite a few actually.
Quite a few. All right. Guys, well done.
With
all right, a very, very important concept for you to be able to understand. The reason being, as I said to you, okay, what do? When we do practical work, right? When we do practical work, you can bring this in. When we do enzymes, etc., when we do our food tests as well, you're going to see when you do your food test, we'll do it next week, when we take a little bit of egg and we boil it, what happens? It changes its shape. Are we finished?
If that's,
we can carry on.
We
can carry on. I could carry on. I could carry on forever.
Can't do that.
Can't do that. Oh, do we have to go?
Mindsetters, thank you so much for tuning in. Thank you, Cheryl,
It's
for
a
a very
pleasure.
great first
It was
show.
great to be back.
There is a test yourself, guys. We will post it on our Facebook page. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye from us.